This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
I'll tell you, we're so fortunate to have Ram's Head on stage here in Annapolis because it just gives us a seemingly never-ending stream of incredible music and musicians. And with us today is a man who has been doing it consistently for, I think, more than 40 years. And it's a real deal because when Joe Bonamassa says he is a national treasure, that's a quote. It's Mr. Tinsley Ellis, man. How are you?
Doing great. Heading your way soon.
How did Bonamassa get to tell you that you're a national treasure, man? I need him for a quote for me.
Well, I think that was in a newspaper somewhere, and my record label, Alligator Records, found that and have been using it in the press package.
Well, I'll tell you, I am excited to see you and Marcia Ball actually together here in Annapolis on March 28th at Ram's Head on stage. And before we hopped on the phone, I just checked and tickets are still available. You can get them at ramsheadonstage.com. But I'm assuming you don't need a ticket. That's for everybody that's listening. You get in for free or something, I understand.
Yeah, I'll be up there on the stage performing, so I'll definitely be there.
Well, I tell you, I follow you, and COVID obviously thwarted your tour for your, I would say your most recent album, but it's not at this point. But Ice Cream in Hell, and
right.
Is album still a valid term in today's world?
Yes, it is. It is, because we have not only albums, streaming. We have albums, downloads and CDs, of course. But now we have vinyl records, and vinyl records have made a comeback. And I'm actually selling as many vinyl albums as I am compact discs, so that's a good thing. You know what?
I read that in some magazine, or maybe it was the New York Times, that said that last year vinyl outperformed CDs.
Isn't that great?
It's awesome. I got my girlfriend a turntable and some Bluetooth speakers and, half a dozen albums for Christmas, and loving it. Absolutely loving it. But
and a lot of cars. I bought a new car to travel in, and I said, well, let me give it the CD test. So I got a CD out, one of my favorite CDs, and went out to the car with it, and I couldn't find where to put the CD in the car. And then I realized that they're not putting CD players in automobiles anymore.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's probably an option like the cigarette lighters and the ashtrays or something like that. What CD were you looking to put in there?
B.B. King, Blues is King.
Can't go wrong with B.B. King, that's for sure.
Right, that is true.
But I'll tell you, during COVID, man, you sort of hunkered down and you released a new album that is just released late last year, Devil May Care, right?
Yes, Devil May Care is the newest album, and it was born during the downtime when I was off the road during the COVID thing, and wrote quite a few songs, a couple hundred songs, and chose the best ones, and those ended up on the Devil May Care album. And I'm even a year later after its release, I'm calling it the new album, and I'm touring in support of it.
That's awesome. You said several hundred new songs?
200, around 200.
Do you ever slow down?
Yes, after the tour, after this particular tour, which ends in late April, I've got some time scheduled to work on what will be my very first all-acoustic album. I've never done that. I've done a live album. I've done a lot of regular albums. I've done even an instrumental album, guitar instrumental album, but I've never done an all-acoustic album. I'll be working on that in the month of May.
That'll be fun. Well, I know you're no stranger to Annapolis, and I think the last time I saw you was when you played the unfortunately now defunct Chesapeake Bay Blues Fest in 2010. Oh, yeah. And I think Chuck Berry and Buddy Guy were up there as well with you, and it was
Johnny Lang.
Yeah,
Johnny Lang was on my day, and also Kev Moe. I really missed that festival. I was able to play it 2 or 3 times, and it was one of the largest festivals in America. And a lot of people, when they think of Annapolis and they think of blues, they think of that festival. But they also think of the Ram's Head, because I played there, for decades and decades, and probably 20 times now.
Right. Well, I'll tell you. Well, let's talk about your show on the 28th.
Yes.
Is this the first time that you're going out on tour with Marcia?
Well, we just completed the West Coast. We started in Phoenix 3 weeks ago and worked our way all the way up to Seattle, Washington, and she flew home to Austin from there, and I continued on doing shows all the way back through the middle of the south of the country to get back to my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. So we're going to resume next week in Columbus, Ohio, and we have 25 shows in 1 month.
Wow. Unreal.
Together.
Unreal. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, with her blues/jazz and your blues/rock,
yes.
I got to imagine this is going to be a pretty cool and funny and probably fun show.
It's it's an interesting show because each of us are performing separately. Solo acoustic. She'll be playing, most of the venues have a grand piano for her to play, which is truly a religious experience to hear her play her New Orleans style piano on a grand piano. And then I do stuff on a couple of acoustic guitars. I've got an old Martin guitar I play, and then I've got the 1937 National Steel Resonator guitar. So we each play a set and talk about songs that we've, recorded, how we wrote the songs, and we play separately, and then we come together at the end to play a segment together, and that has been really magical.
That's cool. So this is like three sets in one. So his, hers, and theirs.
Well, yeah, 2.5 really, because sometimes it's been seamless where I play and there's no intermission, and then she comes right up, and then we play together at the end. And sometimes there's an intermission between my show and her show, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen on that particular night. I just know that it's a really long night of blues and storytelling and songwriter stuff.
That's one thing I love when musicians and artists come in and they sort of tell the stories behind the songs. And, okay, you can get up there and just play and sing and that's wonderful too. But when you hear what's behind it and some of the stories, and my gosh, you've been on the road for 40 years. So,
longer than that. She's been at it longer than me, because I used to go see Marcia Ball when I was in college, and let's face it, college for me was let's just say over 40 years ago, and so she's been a fixture, and I'm totally humbled to be in her presence.
How did you guys connect on this? Was this your idea, her idea, or?
Well, I called her up and asked her if she wanted to do it. She said, sure.
Easy as that, huh?
It was. And of course, our agencies had to get together and managers and stuff. But initially it started with a phone call from me to her.
That's great. That's fantastic. I was reading your wiki before we got on the phone. Your on Wikipedia said you grew up in South Florida. Where'd you grow up in South Florida?
Hollywood, Florida, which is in Broward County.
Okay. Yeah, I did before I got thrown out, I did a brief stint at Pinecrest down in Fort Lauderdale for high school. So I know the area pretty well.
I went to the rival church school. I went to St. Andrews in Boca Raton.
Oh, okay.
And I had a lot of friends that went to Pinecrest. And if you get kicked out of Pinecrest, you end up going to St. Andrews and vice versa.
Yeah, no, my dad wouldn't have any of that, man. He sent me up to a boarding school in Connecticut. So it was.
Which one in Connecticut did you go to?
It was a real small boarding school up in Litchfield County. It was in a town called Washington, Connecticut. It was called the Gunnery, and they've changed their name now to, because it's named after a guy named Gunn. They changed their name to the Gun School because they got tired of saying, "Hey, is that a military academy?" With a name like that.
Sounds like it would be. My dad went to Choate, which was a boarding school up in Connecticut. So I know the whole. I'm basically a preppy who ran amok. And I got a taste of blues in high school, and I just never looked back. And didn't want to be a lawyer or anything like that. I wanted to be a blues musician.
A preppy run amok. That's a great line.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're the preppy who ran amok as well.
To a point. It's funny, but I'll tell you, you've played venues of all sizes, and obviously Ram's Head is not a big venue. The show is billed as an intimate show. I mean, do you have a preference? Do you like to play to a big crowd or a small crowd?
Well, wouldn't it be great to play for a big crowd every night like Bruce Springsteen or U2 does? But, playing roots music, we're pretty much playing the, jazz clubs and occasional theater. And that's just our lot in life. The first time I ever saw B.B. King, there was less than 100 people, and it was in a bar. It was actually a teen show where they shut down the bar and teenagers could come in and hear the featured attraction. And a lounge in a hotel in North Miami Beach, actually it was the Marco Polo Hotel in North Miami Beach, had B.B. King booked, and whoever played there for a week. I mean, imagine seeing B.B. King in a small hotel lounge for a week. I'd do that every night if I could. But he had to do a teen matinee on the Saturday. And there was probably, I don't know, maybe 50 kids there watching him. So, and he's the king of the blues. So the king of the blues plays for 50 people. So that is my lot in life, I believe, if I'm going to play roots music.
And some of them are the best shows ever. I mean, way back in a prior life, I attended bar outside of Philadelphia after I got out of college, and Tower of Power, I'd never seen them or heard of them. Was booked into this small little club, not too dissimilar from Ram's Head. And all of a sudden, it was a Saturday night and nobody's walking in. We were all staffed up and everything else. So they started cutting the bartenders loose. And I sat there in a room with 25 people watching that, with Emilio and like 11 piece, 10 piece, whatever the hell it is, just blowing me away from, 20 feet away. It was amazing.
Every show that I've ever seen that really blew me away, whether it was Stevie Ray Vaughan or B.B. King, every show that I ever saw that blew me away was in a small venue.
That's awesome.
Maybe that's, I've never really been, I've been entertained at a large venue, but I've never been blown away at a large venue. But I was blown away by bands like the Red Hot Chili Peppers in a small venue, and B.B. King and Stevie Ray Vaughan. There's something about that experience.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, as we start to wrap up, I mean, you've shared the stage with so many people.
Yes.
We've talked to a bunch of them. Right now, dead or alive, who would be at the top of your bucket list as artists to play with?
Well, that's a tough question because there's so many still going. I was fortunate enough to be able to sit in with the Allman Brothers Band and anybody in blues, Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, Albert Collins. I played on stage with all those people, and a lot of them are gone, or broke up or gone. The Allman Brothers is gone, and of those who remain, just off the top of my head, Carlos Santana, Eric Clapton, ZZ Top. I gravitate towards blues rock. That's kind of, blues is my love, but rock is definitely my heritage. And those are the ones that come to mind.
There you go. Well, out of your repertoire, out of your library, what do you have a single song for you that you just never get tired of playing?
That's a tough one too, because on any given night, I could be either inspired or uninspired on a tune that maybe is a good one for me. I have a song that I wrote called "A Quitter Never Wins," and it's been covered by. I did a version of it. Johnny Lang sold 2 million copies of it, and John Mayall just put it on his new album, and so. A Quitter Never Wins is probably my favorite song for a number of reasons. And those album sales, hard to get that out of my mind. But just as a message type song, A Quitter Never Wins is the one.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite of Marcia Ball's?
Oh, I love it when she does her song Luella, because it really tells a story.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Tinsley Ellis and Marcia Ball are going to be here in Annapolis at the Rams Head on stage on Tuesday, March 28th. The show is at 7:30. The doors do open at 6:30. Grab dinner before, go on over. Tickets are still available at ramsheadonstage.com. And I want to thank you so much for your time this morning. Safe travels up to Annapolis. I don't know whether you're flying or bussing or driving or taking a train or whatever you are, but I can't wait to see you guys on the 28th.
I look forward to seeing everybody, all my friends in the Annapolis area, and I appreciate you giving me a call today.
Nothing's meant to last. One day you have it all, then it disappears so fast. Our love is on and off again. Baby, but a quitter never wins. You walked out of love. I stayed through thick and thin. After all that we've been through, baby, you're telling me it's the end. On and off again. Well, I know you wanna quit me, baby, but a quitter never wins. Love's a word that no one means. You know I'd never leave you, so you up and walked out on me. And oh, love is on and off again. Well, I know you wanna quit me, baby, but a quitter never wins.
She'll talk about his wife, and now they're after you with a butcher knife. Oh, Luella, Luella. Well, telegram, telephone, tell her well. Everybody knows if you tell her well, you might as well put it on the radio. She'll spread the story around. She's very indiscreet. She'll put your private life out in the street. Oh, Luella, big mouth Luella. Well, I told you once, I told you twice, you wouldn't listen to me. You got together with Big Mouth Luella and you told her everything. The cat's out of the bag. Yeah, you spilled the beans. You should have locked your lips and thrown away the key. Yeah, Luella. Oh, Luella. Well, why in the devil did you tell Luella everything you know? Didn't everybody try to tell you better? Think before you spoke. You talked about your friends. Now they won't talk to you, and you're sitting all alone. Well, what you gonna do? Oh, Luella, big mouth Luella. Yeah, Luella. Yeah, Luella. Woo!
This has been a bonus podcast from Ion Annapolis. Please visit us at ionannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Ion Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.